Gene, will you give us an invocation, please?
Sure. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for all of the blessings and the comfort that we can find in you, especially during a time like this. Thank you so much for your wisdom and guidance. Thanks so much for those who have unselfishly worked with those who have been stricken by this pandemic. Father, keep them safe. Bless the first responders. Bless those decision makers. We just pray that the decisions that are being made will be beneficial to us all. Bless the caregivers. Father, bless us as we deliberate this morning, making decisions that will be fruitful to our city. Father, help us to come out of this much stronger and more cordial and more reflective of your goodness and your grace. Father, bless each one that will be participating. Give us a spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood, that we may make decisions that are fruitful to all. For these and other blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, first thing on the agenda, consider the approval for the second amended economic development agreement with the Permian Basin Food Bank and West Texas Food Bank. Wesley?
Sure. Okay, I'll just dive right into this. You received the information in an email probably 10 days ago. The process was done fairly quickly, but the details were outlined in Libby's letter to myself that I passed on to you and to the Compliance Committee, and I believe Legal has shared that with the City Council as well. Compliance did meet on this on Tuesday and had a very good discussion, a very long discussion with Libby, and Libby is here today to go over some of the details and answer any questions you have. But basically, as we all know, what's currently going on with the current situation, not only with the COVID issue, but also with the oil price and that sector of the economy being just completely devastated. Folks are using the food bank, calling on the food bank, extremely increased levels in the most recent weeks. Libby can give you those numbers as far as the increase in the amount of food that's been passed out, the new families that are being impacted by this and coming to the food bank, but their numbers are way, way high, obviously. This request is for a walk-in freezer cooler installed with racks and shelving to accommodate some perishable items that they're going to be able to get from the USDA and from all the other things where other users of those goods have broken down, not able to use those goods can be passed along to food banks and brought on to good use in our community, but also throughout our region. So, you know, the details are in the letter. This request is broken out for a cooler, mechanical contingencies and install. Libby and I have talked about installation and timing and all that. So, but I'm going to let Libby kind of go into some details. We do have a little bit of time before Dr. Perryman could join us, and I thought we'd let her give some details that maybe you do not know, or maybe you do know, but you might have some questions about that. So I'm going to turn that to Libby if she's on.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. How's everybody at ODC? Oh, good.
We're good.
So we are requesting for a $1 million expansion onto the cooler freezer. We have been using the cooler freezer that tripled the size that we had on our 2nd Street location. In January, we will celebrate our 5th year in the Odessa facility and our 4th birthday in the Midland facility coming up in January of 2021. First off, I want to say thank you guys for believing in us a long time ago when you did the first grant for us for economic development. We could not be doing what we're doing today without you guys believing in us back then and supporting us to build our new facilities that we have now. What we're seeing, we have increased over probably 43, 44% is just in the last 60 days of what we usually do. Last April, we did 650,000 pounds of food is what we distributed to the 19 counties that we currently serve, which is equivalent to 34,000 square miles of West Texas, which is about the same size as the state of Maine. As of yesterday, when we did not have all of yesterday's numbers in, we were sitting at about 795,000 pounds, and we still have the day's worth of numbers out. So we will do over 800,000 pounds for April pretty easily. We are currently operating on only 48 staff members at this time. We have 0 volunteers. We have 0 National Guard. We have done all of this increase on staff only. We have gone to nothing but a box build, which is shelf-stable box, and then the produce and cold items, which is dairy, milk, eggs, cheese, meat that we're able to procure with USDA, and also with our relationship with ATV is what we are handing out to our families. All of our partner agencies are now on a drive-through model, just like we are, with a pantry box and the cold box and the produce bag is what we call it. They have also all transitioned to that. We were at 92 agencies before this started. We have currently dropped to 78. Most of our agencies at this point who are still operating are on limited capacity. We are having to lean in and do more outreaches and more mobile distributions into our rural communities. We have pulled all of our outreaches that we were doing in the Midland-Odessa area to the locations in Midland and Odessa due for security purposes so that we can have support from MPD, OPD, the fire department, and the state troopers. The second distribution that we did at the Odessa facility, we had to call in the state troopers due to a little scuttle in our parking lot and to a gentleman who felt like we were going to run out of food and got very aggressive. So with that, we have moved in having support to protect our staff. We just in the last 2 weeks were able to receive PPE for our staff, masks and gloves and those kinds of things if they are fully exposed. We have also doubled our capacity of being able to go to senior, low-income housing and vulnerable communities, and we are delivering door to door. Our senior box program has gone from about 1,500 seniors. We're up to about 1,800 currently. We have room for 200 more that we will be reimbursed for by the Texas Department of Agriculture. Once we reach that number, we will petition TDA to actually increase our box count for the rural community. There is a problem with supply chain. That is true. Everything you've seen on Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC is the truth. There is a breakdown in our food supply. Right now, we'll see what happens with meat, but the meat processing plants are under a huge amount of stress due to the outbreak of COVID within their own facilities. What we can procure easily is fresh produce. 40% of the country's produce does actually go into the restaurant industry. Even with us only kicking back on 25%, there is still a huge amount of produce that is easy for us to procure at either for free or very low cost for us to be able to fill the gap that we're seeing with our needs within all of our communities, not just your local food bank, but also all 200 food banks in the country. USDA still has a large amount of actually chicken and pork that they've been able to distribute to the food banks up until the supply chain breakdown in our processing plants. We will see how that moves forward in the next 30 days. The reason why we are requesting the freezer cooler expansion is because USDA has implemented a new box program that's called COVID-19 boxes. Very interesting name. It's very creative. I'm sure all of you are impressed with USDA's name. They are going to invest $300 billion into the distributors and agriculture community over the next 6 to 9 months. $300 million a month will be given to distributors to box up for the food banks in the country produce, meat, and dairy products that would normally go to our restaurants. This will help support hopefully our agriculture community and also our distributors until our economy hopefully turns back on a little bit more than what it is now so that people can go back to eating out again. With this, we found out this morning from a sweet little bird at the university at USDA, acting under Secretary Lips, actually sent me a text this morning. Cisco Foods and U.S. Foods has included us in their bid that they turned in to USDA this morning for the RFP, so we will be getting products. Also, we had 3 other smaller distributors from outside the state of Texas had actually included us in their bid. We know that at this point we will be receiving at least 3,500 boxes a week of different produce, meat, and dairy products that are absolutely free to your food bank and can go to as many people as we can hand them out to every week within our service territory. There'll be no income requirement. There's no paperwork. It just goes out free to our clients and to our partner agencies. Our partner agencies are smaller churches and nonprofits. They do not have walk-in coolers, especially like the one we have or the one that we're begging you guys for currently, so that we can procure that product for free for our communities and be able to distribute that without any problem to help fill this void until the COVID situation hopefully settles out a little bit, and also until our oil industry tends to also kind of calm a little bit of the storm. So that is the request. We do have good reason for it. The freezer cooler will also help us long-term be able to drop our operating costs. Produce will always be easy to procure. It always has been. But it will continue based on our new relationships that we're building with the produce sheds and the actual growers in between New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. We will continue to be able to cultivate those relationships moving forward and receive produce instead of us having to purchase shelf-stable. Shelf-stable items have gone up, and the cost is for us to be able to get a 30 to 35,000 pound truck of food. Shelf-stable is what you consider canned goods, pasta, rice, pasta sauce, Spam, tuna fish, peanut butter, jellies, anything like that has become very difficult to procure. We started out in February. We started actually ordering trucks. We usually only order 3 trucks a month for your current food bank status. Currently, we have ordered, as of yesterday, 32 trucks of food. We have received in the last, since we consider it we call it C-Day or COVID Day that started on March the 10th. We have received 12 trucks out of those 32. Each one of those trucks is anywhere that started out at $22,000 to $25,000 a piece. Currently, right now, it's costing us anywhere from $30,000 to $36,000 to get a shelf-stable truck. When we started ordering shelf-stable back in February, because we were concerned about what this was going to look like moving forward for our community, and we were trying to brace ahead of the need, it was only taking us 3 weeks to be able to get a shelf-stable set of trucks. Currently, as it stands right now, as of yesterday, the trucks we ordered take 8 to 12 weeks. What we can get quickly is produce. We need the cooler freezer to be able to secure what we can get at the lowest cost and also the most that we can get to help feed our community. The last thing I want to do is ever have to look anybody in the face and say that we have run out of food at the West Texas Food Bank. This gives us the means to continue to be able to feed at the support that we're feeding now, to be able to procure food at a far less cost, healthier food actually for our communities in the long term. Hopefully that helps our healthcare cost expenses, and also for us to be able to continue to sustain our operations moving forward with an uneasy oil economy. As of this point, as of this point, 74% of our clients that we saw in the last month of April were brand new. 32% of them had volunteered in our doors. 46% of them had been donors.
And I thought I had a challenge trying to keep this insurance agency going.
Well, we are living the dream at the West Texas Food Bank. I have a very dedicated staff. They have moved away from their families. They have not seen new grandchildren. They come to work every day under extreme amount of stress and situations and a hard ask. We're asking them to build close to 13,000 pantry boxes a month on 48 staff members. We are going to have to add jobs over the next at least 18 months to 3 years, depending on how this looks. We are going to have to add an additional outreach team, which is the jobs that are listed in the request. Because of the way this product is going to flow, these commodities, they are not shelf stable, which means our pantries can't hold them just in the middle of their gymnasium at their churches, or they just don't have the space to hold cold produce boxes. So with that being said, we are going to have to add what we call on-time delivery. And so we will have to pull up during their distribution times with our reefer trucks or our disaster mobile units and provide cold storage so that they can hand out this product. It will also reduce the cost of our partner agencies that we work with because, again, this product will be free. And so it will help their ability that they do not have to fundraise as much to purchase shelf-stable goods. So it does have an economic multiplier effect that runs through all of our feeding partners, not just us, but it will reduce their operating costs also. Okay, that's all I got. Unless you guys have questions.
You know, Libby,
Okay, any questions?
well, I'll just add that, you know, Libby, obviously, we all know how hard she works on things like this, and she and I have been talking, and even last night, I don't usually text late at night. I'm usually a go to bed early kind of guy, but Libby and I were texting last night about the stress and the strain on the employees and how that's looking and working, and just the payroll numbers that need to be added as we consider this today and the length of terms, and Robert and I have emailed this morning a little bit on the agreement, so I think that's the discussion we need to have as far as the terms. The compliance committee did approve this as a recommendation to you, to the board, to fund this walk-in freezer cooler with racking and install in the amount of the ask there. It's 1.116150, but so I think the thing now is. Go ahead.
It's like 1.2, Wes. I mean, let's just round it up. 1.2.
1.2. So that's the ask. That's the approved amount from compliance. The questions are, you know, the terms of the extension or an amendment to the agreement. So Robert and Natasha probably can talk to that and how that works. We have amended this agreement in 2017 just to clarify FTEs and salaries and payroll. Not issues, but the way they were being defined and that sort of thing to clarify. And we did do that, approve that, and they have met everything so far according to their agreement. So now this would be a second amendment to that same agreement, add some time and add the jobs and accountability for those according to what we approved today. So questions?
So this is Councilman Shelton from District 1. I want to commend the food bank on the wonderful job that they do in our city. And I want to say that if anything that I can do to help them, they can get in contact with me and let me know what I can do within not just in the district, but what I can do within the city.
I think right now the biggest support that we can have is to have cheerleaders and advocates on the street who are supporting what we're doing. At this point, we're not taking volunteers due to the lack of testing. We did something different than other food banks did across the state, and I was told I was crazy by some of my fellow peers, but we closed down to volunteers completely when this started in March. And other food banks have actually had outbreaks of COVID in their facilities because they were still allowing volunteers to come in without the proper testing or the proper ability to be able to test the right amount of people. And they have had to close down parts of their operations, which has hindered their ability to be able to feed their communities. So we are not ready to open up to volunteers. I think that we will wait until we see how the 25% open starts today on Reopen Texas. And I think we will also wait to see when we feel confident that at least Midland and Exeter County has a better ability to do more testing and get results back quickly for us to feel where we're not endangering our staff or our staff family or our food supply. Because if we have an outbreak in our facility, we're not a food bank that has 130 people on staff like some of the larger food banks. We have 48, and that's including the entire leadership team all the way down to the guys who drive our trucks and pull orders. So we have 19 counties that depend on us to feed them every day, and so we are having to do it the best way that we know how, which is to basically, the food bank is now referred to as the vault. And no one comes in or out other than staff and some of our staff's kids. And everybody is fever tested. Everyone is sprayed basically with Lysol and hand sanitizer. Everybody is wearing masks. We have gloves for everybody at all times. So we are being very cautious about maybe overly cautious in the food bank of how we're dealing with the uptick of the amount of clients that we're having to serve within the community.
Okay, like I say, I still commend you on y'all doing a wonderful job within the areas y'all covering, and I will put the word out to let them know that with anything that we can do, we'll try to do the best that we can.
Prayers are good for myself and my staff that we don't go crazy, but prayers are good.
Okay, I will make sure I pass the word out within the churches and within my district and the city. Let them know that we will be praying for you, that y'all be having good health and no outbreak comes in within the food bank.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Libby, this is Chris. I got a question. What is the time frame of the freezer? When do you hope to secure the freezer, and how long does it take to get it in and installed?
Actually, Don Evans, they're the ones who built the current freezer that we have now, so they already have our plans, because we had originally planned to do the whole cooler freezer when we built the Odessa facility, but we did, at the time, when we started looking at the cost and what the amount of pounds we were actually moving at that time, we were not going to be good stewards of our donors' dollars or our taxpayer dollars by putting in that freezer cooler, because it's so expensive to run and we really just didn't need the space. So at this point, they still have the design drawings and everything. They are actually going without a contract right now. Scott is, because he remembers me from being pushy the last time we made a building together. That they've already pushed the drawings actually to the manufacturer and the factory to actually go ahead and start designing the walls in our new jigsaw floor for the second half of that cooler freezer. It usually takes 4 to 6 weeks for them to do manufacturing and get it here. And it usually, so total with install is usually 6 to 8 weeks. Scott has promised me that he is going to stand on the manufacturer, and he knows I will stand on top of him to make sure that this is in. The product that we are concerned about that's coming from USDA should start to really roll in within the next probably 8 weeks. So if it goes along the timeline that Scott is promising me, and he knows that I can be extremely vocal, that our cooler freezer will be in right before the USDA product starts to roll with the COVID boxes.
Okay. Natasha, you're on the call, correct?
Yes, I'm on.
What are the terms that you're going to make for this the agreement, the current agreement?
I think Robert has been working on it. He's also on the call.
Hey, good morning, Cliff. Good morning, board. So the terms that we have been discussing so far have been an extension, essentially, of the last amendment, extending this agreement, this economic development agreement, out 3 years. They will add 5 jobs, and the total payroll amount we haven't added up yet, but it will be, I believe, that $30,000 per job. So they will maintain the 48 jobs they're currently maintaining, add 5 more jobs, and the payroll to go along with those jobs for the next 3 years.
And of course, that's negotiable, and it's up for discussion with the board today.
And Libby, as we talked last night, that's about $15 an hour without benefits, so all that would be added on. I mean, as far as the big picture goes for these jobs. I think is that a doable number for you? And I know there's concerns on donations and the oil and gas industry and economy and those kinds of things. So.
We are fueled mostly by donations and the kindness of people within our community. We have been able to figure out how to leverage the T3, the private-public partnership. So we have been able to do growth of partnering with USDA and Texas Department of Agriculture for reimbursement on some of our positions. And also, since we do hold the USDA CFAP, USDA commodity contract for the 19 counties that we hold, there is some reimbursement for storage, distribution, and transportation of those commodities that we get. It's usually about 7 cents per pound is what we're reimbursed from the United States government for taking on those USDA commodities. On average, it costs us about 19 cents per pound to move products. So even the USDA commodities, because we do drive so much and we've had such a higher cost for transportation out here due to the oil industry with cost of drivers and labor, So I'm assuming that that might drop a little bit, but usually the way we fill that hole is we do fundraising. But your food bank has been able to be very successful with that moving from in the past. I assume that we will continue to move to be as successful as we can in the industry, in the oil industry's backyard, in our community. We have had a lot of support from Feeding America and even Feeding Texas through this disaster to help us be able to procure and purchase food loads. So I feel confident that we should be able to maintain that moving forward. Those 5 jobs, we will keep them as long as we need them and as long as this crisis is ongoing. And I feel pretty confident that we will be doing more mobile distributions, even if we look at the way we're talking about having to restructure food to kids. We're going to have to kind of basically penetrate into those really low income areas that we've always depended on our schools to distribute those meals to those kiddos. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So we're going to have to look at different ways that we run some of our programs, not just because of the current disaster, but what we will look like moving forward in the next probably 2 years. Because until we really have a vaccine, there will be some form of social distancing. Our schools are not equipped right now to even handle the kiddos they have now, much less to address social distancing within the classroom. So there's going to be a change. We are going to have to do more mobile outreach and do more on-time delivery to our partner agencies throughout the 19 counties to be able to provide access to low-cost commodities.
So would all of this fall within the 2020 audit or 2021?
I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise.
I think this question is which audit will be next year's audit. Go ahead.
If everyone would mute their call except for the speakers to be clear.
Okay, Wes, could you answer that for me, please?
And legal would verify this, but I would believe this would be included in next year's audit. So we would put the agreement effective immediately upon funding this task. So,
yes, that's correct. It would be next year's audit.
This is David. I have a question. When we extend it 3 more years, what's the existing expiration? What's the expiration of the existing agreement?
The expiration of the existing agreement, this year 2020 will be their last year for audit. They would receive their final payment next year in 2021 after an audit of their 2020 books.
So we would be now, the expiration would be 4 years. So it's 3 plus 1, is that right?
It would, yes.
Why wouldn't we do 4 more years and make it a 5, like kind of like we've normally done? And I don't think that's a gotcha. If you think about the projections with regard to population and increases and whatnot, we can't forget that. We know at some point, the oil business, it's a commodity business, and the demand is going to return. And where better to be for oil and gas production than in the Permian Basin. So none of that's going to change. And I think we need to look at the situation as a term. So this investment, along with the West Texas Food Bank, makes some sense in my mind because with the growth that's expected, the capacity needs to be there anyway. Now, I think it's been accelerated right now, but just because of the circumstances. But why wouldn't we extend it 4 years instead of 3? I would be more in favor of doing that.
Mr. Gutierrez, that's what the original recommendation was. We were asked to change it to 3 years, and of course it's negotiable to the board. So that was our original recommendation.
Libby,
I have no problem going to 4.
Let me the 5. If the legal had said 5, Libby and I talked, and I said, why don't we start at 3 and let this negotiation go? So it wasn't, but we needed to start with a number. So I think it's easier to start with 3 and get to 4 rather than cutting back on it. Kind of, I guess, was thinking as far as this goes. So legal did have 5 originally. I had thrown that out, and then I said, let's start here and work our way to where we need to get to. So I think everything's on the table. So there's no firm number.
I agree with Dave Batten. I think we ought to go with the 4.
Well, I mean, if are we at the point we can we make a motion? I would make a motion to approve the recommendation of the compliance committee and ensure that it's a 4-year extension rather than a 3 as presented.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Excuse me, who made the second motion?
Who seconded the motion? I recognized Gene's voice, but I thought there was 2.
Well, you can put Chris down, because I certainly was going to.
Okay.
Norma?
Yes.
Norma, this is Melanie Holman. I need to ask for you to make a note in the minute that, because I am a member of the West Texas Food Bank Board, that I have abstained from voting on the deal.
Okay.
Okay.
Tim, before we move on,
I
said before we move on, I have a comment. Since the pandemic started, I've been trying to get us to establish some parameters for emergency causes, and I know legal worked on that and said that we were within our scope to do that. And the reason I bring that up, in case there's a project that does not fit within the regular terms of the Type A corporation, can we consider some of those under, and this would be creating another category, and that's why I asked for a resolution in our last meeting, an emergency category with some parameters set by the city council to respond to those. Are we still locked into the regular guidelines of the Type A corporation? And maybe Natasha needs to go ahead.
Yeah, I believe we're locked in on what we've got right now, but I understand what you're saying. I agree with you, but let's get see if we can get you and I and Natasha and can we get someone from the council to kind of just meet and go over that and see if we can come up with something that might work for that situation, because I think there's a very likelihood that there may be something like that come up in the next 60 days that we may be able to help out in. So, is that okay? Gene, if you'll join me and Natasha, can we get 1 or 2 from council and see if we can come up with some resolution that?
Yes, and at this time what we're doing is the last project we did approve under the emergency guidelines. It has to do with manufacturing, which does fit into Type A. So what we've been doing with council is that we have 1 hour for an emergency notice. And so council still wants to know what's going on, and I'm thinking the ODC board will want those same guidelines, and we can still bring items to ODC board within that hour if we get the notice posted. So we've been following along with the guidelines and just trying to speed up the process.
Okay. So if we had one that was outside the guidelines, we could bring it up in that 1 hour notice, and we could go through even though it was outside the guidelines of Type A. Is that correct? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, we would have to see how far it is outside of the guidelines. There's nothing that has changed as far as the guidelines we're up under. So we can look at each project and see where it may fit into the Type A guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say guidelines. The state is not. You know, no one has come down and said, "Hey, since this has happened, we're going to loosen everything up." They're requiring everything, type of business, type of jobs, everything like that to remain the same. What I think Mr. Collins is asking for is maybe, and I don't know, it can be a case by case, but like Natasha said, we look at everything and see how we can make it fit. If it does fit, if it doesn't fit, then we need to make some decisions. So, you know, there's a lot to be said for ability and being nimble, and I think we've got the ability to do that. But we're probably still going to be kept in certain parameters of what we can and can't do. So, you know, legal is the one for those kinds of answers. And of course, I can give input on all that too. Most everything they shot at me first. So anyway. So,
I know I'm not on the council, but this is Libby.
Oh.
But there is going to be a huge problem with mental health after this starts to settle down. And there's going to be a huge problem with domestic abuse.
This is Natasha, and we have to stay on the agenda. But we can put discussions like that on a further agenda.
I'm just typing in because I will probably be on another call.
Yeah. Maybe I've noted that, and I think we're aware of it, but I'm glad you reminded us again because it's already starting, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be much more. If we can put that on a discussion on our next agenda or something. I don't know what ODC, the Development Corporation, can do in that, but we need to research it and see if there is something, I guess.
I'm saying we're already seeing a lot of that with the clients we're serving.
Right. And you anticipate seeing a lot more, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other comments or before we? I don't know. Is Mr. Perryman on yet?
He is not. I've sent him a text telling him ready whenever he. I expect him any time.
Okay. Our next meeting scheduled for May 14th. I know these meetings like this keep us going, but I would like to, and I've talked to I think to Wes and a couple others. I'd like to, if at all possible, have our May 14th meeting back at City Hall, and let's try to get back to the way we operate. I think we can. My understanding is we can get 6 foot apart, still keep our social distancing, and then anyone that we can limit the ones in the room as they speak. Does anyone have a problem with that?
Tim, I think that we would probably still need to have our meeting webcast or something to allow public.
Webcast from the City Hall? And now let's get City Hall. Norma can check that out for us. I'm sure we can do that. That's a good point, Donnie, because there are public meetings, we can't leave them out. So
this is Natasha. We can do that. We can have some people present, and if they should be allowed to call in, and also if there are board members that want to call in, that's also fine.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Perryman is trying to join, so.
Okay. Before he comes on, Mr. Shelton, we'd like, on behalf of the ODC Economic Development Board, I'd like to welcome you to the council. I will ask Norma to get your contact information to all of our board members and have her give you all of our contact information. We look forward to working with you, and because you'll find out we work very close together, and we appreciate you volunteering to serve, and we welcome you on behalf of the board.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see if we can get Mr. Perryman on. This is going to be just a discussion of where he is on, is he on?
He is not on yet. Someone else texted saying they had trouble getting on. It kept hanging up or disconnecting, so probably just give it a few minutes. Maybe he will keep trying.
I've heard all over they're having issues with some of the WebEx stuff, so that's very well communicated. Hey, Tim, this is Chris. I just want to make sure you guys know that I may end up dropping off right at 11. So I've got it happening.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine. But we're going to have discussion with Mr. Perryman on where he is, and I think, Wes, we're going to, in our May 14th meeting, we need to make sure he's on the agenda to go over into his report in detail, and we'll vote to accept it at that point. Is that correct?
That is correct. We will have the full report by then and to accept it. And he will be able to make that, he's already said, so.
Okay.
There he is. You're on.
Mr. Perryman, we turn it over to you.
You're muted.
Can't see him. I only have West Burnett at the very end. I don't see him.
Norma, is there any way for you to control his volume or to unmute?
I'm trying to look for him, but I can't find him. Where is it? That's the very end.
She's the host.
Oh, okay. There's
Unmute.
There's nothing.
Okay. Can you try it again?
There's no microphone. It's only on chat.
Oh, there you go.
All right. I'm definitely challenged on this sort of thing.
Froze. Oh.
Jim, back to you to move it along if you'd like.
There you go.
Okay, is Mr. Perryman on?
I am.
Okay, I'm turning it over to you to give us a kind of an update on your report you're working on for us.
Okay. As I assume Wes has told you, we spent a draft for you today last night, and I'm not sure if it's or not. I'm not sure what the status is on that, but it's still in draft form at this point in time. But we are, what we've tried to do is several things here, obviously, on a very short team. And one thing is there's some very specific recommendations in there toward the end after we kind of built up the reasons for them. Some of them relate to specific things to do right now, to try to do with some short-term housing issues, to try to do with some of the issues. I know you've been talking about the food bank this morning, some of those types of issues, the helping employees, helping businesses, and those kinds of things, some of the best practices we've seen around the state, and that sort of thing. Others are more long-term in nature, and they deal with things like broadband access, creating an advocacy program for the area, and some other things like that. There's a number of recommendations in there, and if to the extent you want me to, Tim, I'm happy to walk through anything you want me to walk through as we go through here. I've got a copy of it on that screen. In terms of the content of the report, I would say, in addition to recommendations, and that's what there's three things that I'll probably want to call your attention to. One of them is we actually did detailed forecasts by industry for
the Odessa area and the Permian Basin on what we think the economic impact of all this can be, and what the economy can look like for the next couple of years. Now, obviously, we don't have all the information we need. We don't know if the opening that we're beginning to do is going to further help certain issues. I mean, there's so much we don't know that it's very difficult to do from a comprehensive platform we'd like to do in information like that. We have literally gone industry by industry for every industry lab. We've taken a look at things and tried to see what we think will be. The numbers are basically 2020 and 2021 numbers, the short-term numbers. And what they show is not surprisingly a big drop in 20 and some beginning to come back some in 21, but not getting back to where we were at that time. Now, I will emphasize on that. These are the annual average numbers. In other words, 2021 over 2020, 2020 versus 2019, that sort of thing. So, in the next couple of months, we'll see, like employment, for example, we'll see about bigger losses and we're projecting, but we think by the end of the year we'll get some of that back. And so, and we'll monitor these to continue anything we need to update on the time, even after this contract is completed, we'll update and keep that out there as best we can and keep everybody informed. We're trying to do that in a number of areas right now. But that's one aspect of it, which is particularly difficult when things will happen. We try to explain in some detail the oil situation, what's happening, why it happened, and that sort of thing. It's very important, and I think this is one of the most important things. I know you're hearing, I'm hearing, everybody's hearing. This is just like the 80s, and this is worse than the 80s, or those kinds of statements that are being made all over the place. I think there needs to be a very concerted effort to get the message out that this is not like this, and that it's very different from the 80s in a lot of ways. And I go into some detail in the report on that, and there's some very, very important differences. The first one is that this has happened so suddenly. I mean, if you look back at the 80s, prices started dropping in 82. They really went down in 86. You know, it was a very long-term gradual process. There was some critical moments in it. This all happened in about a month to 6 weeks. I mean, it went from being basically okay to literally a couple of days when spot prices were negative, at least one day. Spot prices actually were negative. So, I mean, it was a very, very fast drop that happened this time. And I think the important thing about that is it happened because of a health crisis. I mean, the fundamental thing is the demand for oil has dropped 25% in the world in 30 days. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing anybody else can do about that. It's unprecedented. The only way it can happen is basically to shut the world down. This is what we do. And that's the fundamental problem. You know, OPEC got together and they set the first, said they're going to increase production. That made things worse. Then they cut production some, and our production will go down as we drill fewer of the wells but have high production up front. Another scale formation can do the same. You know, all that together, they've got 13, 14 million of production drop for the next. And there's almost no physical, practical, political, any other way to cut production that much that quickly in the world. And so that's it's fundamentally a demand problem, but it is a temporary demand problem. I think that's the most important difference. Remember the 80s, in addition to the oil situation, we had the state of the one bust, we had the middle state bust, we had 3 big recessions in 8 years. I mean, it was a very big, difficult situation. Right now, we're in a situation where there was nothing really broken before we started. And that's very important. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that was during a year when production was declining very rapidly. In other words, even though the prices were down, prices were low, we weren't producing much oil out here. And decline curves on the wells were very steep, which was well before hydraulic fracturing. Because we were looking at the declining industry to begin with, and this just accelerated at that decline for a few years. We're now looking at an industry that has systems of supply, enhanced global demand, a lot of other things, and the health crisis put a huge pause button on that, usually. And the pain, the short-term pain is terrific, but it doesn't change, it hasn't changed the fundamental fact that we're driving all this growth forward. And I think getting that message out is important, and also from a policy perspective, and the kind of things you can do with, what that means is all the issues we were concerned about with housing, with infrastructure, with education, with the health complex. All of those things are still going to be there once we start coming back up. And oil markets should normalize relatively soon to a level that will support the production out here. And the reason that is because demand's dropped 25 million barrels a day, supply's dropping 13, 14 million barrels a day. That means we only have to get back half of these demand for the market to be functional again. And that can happen fairly quickly as things begin to reopen and things begin to happen in the economy. Then we can reopen fairly soon. So that's one aspect of it. Is I think that's a really, really important message that needs to get out. This is not a 10-year downturn in the middle of a falling production and sagging world demand situation. This is exactly the opposite in terms of the upside, but the downside was just so fast and horrific. You just couldn't imagine seeing anything like this. We spent a great deal of time in the report talking about one thing I think is really important going forward. And I've talked to some of you about this information over time. But something I think is very important going forward is we do have these issues out here. We're easy to forget from a national perspective. And I think we need a major push in Austin and in Washington with the government and the major private constituencies to get some support for the things we need to do out here. So part of what we've done in studying, the recent thing we put in scope, was to really make the case for how important this area is. And we looked at under 4 different oil price scenarios. We looked at what it means to the tax base of the country, what happens right here in the Permian Basin, what it means to the U.S. economy right now, what it means to the Texas economy. And, in 2019, if you take what we produced out here, all the support industries that support it, the pipelines, the storage, the shipping, the petrochemicals, the refining, all driven by Permian crude. It's driven by Permian crude, not the whole industry. It's over 10% of the employment base of Texas. It's driven by what happens right here. And so we're relatively small in terms of population and a lot of other measures, but we are critical to the economy. And that word's not getting out. We also look at it from the perspective of the U.S. economy, not only from the standpoint of the economic contribution, very big, but also what it would mean to the balance of trade going forward, or have to have a healthy, vibrant economy out here, because that's a big issue. And most of our oil is being exported right now. And then also what it would mean in terms of energy security and why that's important and that sort of thing. So there's a very, very strong case in there that hopefully we can pick up the mantle. And this is something that the funding will need to come from the private sector primarily, because of all the restrictions on public dollars. But a huge effort to promote what needs to be done out here, I think it's very important long term. Short term, again, we're focusing on things that other communities have done. For example, when I was on the this call, I'm a member of the recovery task force in Austin. And it's very comprehensive. We bring a lot of health people, a lot of constituents in the community, and that sort of thing. They ask me to come in for comment meetings or whatever. But I think we need a group organized out here to really kind of focus on some things. A simple example, a housing situation right now is one where, a lot of people have leases right now at rates, rental rates, they can't afford because they're being laid off, and that's when the rates were obviously very escalated prior to this happening. They probably can't pay that rent. The landlord's better off if they're a good tenant. You need some type of forbearance, you need something to keep them there as a tenant for the short term, so they still have them for the long term, because the alternative is they want to leave. The apartment sits empty for several months and don't get any revenue. And we lose a family out here or an oil field worker out here, and we're going to need him for that. And so there's some things like that, I think, a task force to facilitate getting people together to really work on all these principles. I think to the extent we can put together some things to help businesses and help individuals, that's very important. Some of them we can provide information resources, but also a lot of communities have put together just grant programs and loan programs and that sort of thing to support those individuals, and give a lot of examples of those. I was just on the phone again with set up a good size in Austin. And it's all this is unfortunately coming at a time when resources are strained or max in terms of tax revenues and that sort of thing as well. But it's one of those things that that, sometimes in situations like this, you don't have any choice but to try to work on some of these things and make them happen. There are some ways to do that. Legislatively, we can't depend on anything, but I can tell you I'm working with two things at the national level right now, and I think the next stimulus package is going to have some specific help for the oil and gas industry, and I think it's going to have some help for local governments as well. And I can't guarantee that right now. I think there's pushback. You've all heard some things that have made markets and that sort of thing. There's been pushback on that. But I think that's going to happen. The last one round 3 one had some significant aid. It was only for cities and counties of over 500,000 people. And the case is being made pretty well right now. I think that's not sufficient for everybody's having a problem. And we can't count on that happening. But there is a lot of conversation going on that right now. I can tell you that on the state task force, and that's my next meeting today, on the state task force, there's a lot of discussion in terms of some things to do, of creating some regulatory forbearance to allow us to do some things that make sense right now that might not make sense another time. So there's a lot of conversation taking place right now, and a lot of people in mind working together trying to solve this problem. But we're focused on things specifically here in the community, and then also some of the resources we need to kind of make this case going forward. So there's a lot of reform, there's a lot to digest. We can get together and talk about it in more detail later. But that's kind of a quick summary of what we've done and what we've had.
Dr. Perryman, this is Wes. I went through it as well as I could, but I liked your oil price scenarios and the probabilities you used. The probability of the upper oil price was something that I really liked. Do you feel good about those probabilities, or how do you really think that's going to work out? I wish we had that crystal ball.
Sure. Let me talk about that for a few minutes. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, Wes. I mean, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. All we can do is we can look at what the world looked like before, what's likely to change permanently as a result of this, and then what that means. When I say what that means, we have looked at 600 industries around the world. I mean, we did a very, very deep dive when we had done to put some of this stuff together. Now, are we going to be right on all of it? Obviously not. But the scenarios I mentioned, very briefly, one I put is a very low 5% scenario is like $25 to $35 a barrel. And, when I was doing this, some of the people at the office were saying, can we do $15 a barrel? 10 or 10? And the answer is no. And the reason is, a price at that level will not sustain, it will not sustain production that's needed because once the world starts getting up even a little bit, and we're already seeing prices. I mean, but that's not a sustainable price. Crazy things happen. You had a weird confluence. And I told some of my clients 3 years beforehand, it could happen. I was watching the numbers. The storage was filling up, and the May contract was expiring, and those on the provision, of course, from that speculators together, some very weird things happening, at least temporarily in the market. But Saudi Arabia needs a price in the 50s, not because they can't produce oil very cheaply, but because they have tied so many social programs, and so much of their economy is tied to the number of barrels they produce. When they produce a barrel, they know what they sell it for. They encumber a lot of spending. And they do that to keep a very stable political environment, keep the royal family in power. And if you know, most of the MBS is trying to solidify his power right now, putting drugs in jail and all that sort of thing. And, and that's happening, in an environment where he has to keep the people happy. Because he doesn't have the whole success of that family has been they kept the people happy. So he can't say, we're not going to do this anymore. And so he needs higher prices, Saudi Arabia's higher prices. Russia's production is so inefficient. They need higher prices. I mean, they'll say things, they'll say, oh, we have plenty of liquidity and we find, I can guarantee you the liquidity they have would be hard to buy all of our lunch today. They don't have liquidity at all. And their production is very inefficient. And if you want to kind of really delve into geopolitics, probably more than the first thing to mention. Russia is smaller than Texas. It has 140 million people. We have 30 million. Its GDP is smaller than ours. And Russia gets a whole lot of attention for a relatively small economy. And the reason they consider a world power and a member of all the major world power groups, that sort of thing, is the fact that they, with the current pipeline system, they control the supply of natural gas from Eastern Europe and part of Western Europe. So they have the power to shut down and literally freeze to death a big part of the world. And that's the source of their political power. Now that we have ships that can liquefy natural gas all over the world, they have a very short window to have that political power. And Putin knows that. He knows very well all this down in it. But he's trying to solidify power right now. He's trying to change the topic. Let me stay for instance the rest of his life and all that sort of thing. So they're all in a situation where they can't sit there and ride out $10 oil or $15 oil for all the time. So once demand comes back even a little bit, even 30-40% of what it is today, just getting the time to kind of starting to crank up. None of those prices below 25 or something. So we didn't even put that in. That can't be a long-term scenario. 25 to 35 has a low probability, but there again, it's going to be hard to sustain world demand. The others, we have one in the 40s, one in the 50s, and one higher. And I think we gave one in the 40s, and the 50s the highest probability. So that's kind of where we see market spirit right now. The other two, one is 25, one is 30%. We're just kind of looking at the things that could happen on both sides of the equation. One thing that will happen, things about the dynamics of these, there's been a lot of talk about renewables and that sort of thing, and they're very, very going to happen. We're going to talk about that. But long-term global demand cannot be met by renewables, can't be met by including battery technology. We run all of those numbers. Everything happens in the maximum way you can reach that, and you throw in a black swan or something, something we hadn't thought about before we revolutionized this thing. You're still going to be getting 60% of the world's energy from hydrocarbons at least, probably more like 70% 5 years today. We can talk about these things all we want to. Now, the implications that are important, and I didn't address this here. I think it's something we addressed in the study, that the opportunity of investment study, what this is going to occur beyond the current situation. I'll tell you, can't say too much about the next meeting if you learn about the next meal. But I think what a real opportunity we have is the solution is obviously, and you can watch it. So you do one side saying, paying all over gas drilling is terrible, and you have the other side saying there's no climate change. So neither one of those things. The world doesn't, that's not the reality. The reality is to solve the problem, we have to burn hydrocarbons first. That's how we have to do it. Somebody in some place is going to be the epicenter in making that happen. And there's a whole lot of reasons why to continue. But that's all stuff for another day. That's not the thing we're focused on right now. But I do think those are the kinds of things we need to be thinking about. And the critical thing for us is keeping the infrastructure together to make this happen. Keep enough workers out here that we can restart when we need to restart. We're going to shut the rigs down for a while. Hopefully we don't get to that one. Like we did back in the 80s, I remember I used to talk and speeches back in the 80s when we worked on this. That one of the things that I used to literally just in afternoon two segments to tell me what was going on in the economy was what I call the shining rig indicator. If you want all these rigs rattle, if you walk by someone that was go by someone that was sandblasting one, that meant something was about to happen. They were getting ready to go into production again. And we don't want to get in that situation. We don't dismantle the infrastructure, dismantle the work. We lost a generation of oil field workers. Nobody was an oil field worker. Nobody majored in petroleum engineering. Nobody majored in technology. We lost an entire generation. That's the kind of things we can't let happen. Short term, we need to keep this together so we can come back and the industry will come back. Because I don't think it'll be very long for something very important. I'm certainly not going to guarantee on these scenarios, but the best call we can make based on looking at a lot of stuff.
Thanks, Dr. Berman.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think, Ray, is it safe to say it fell real quick and you anticipate it'll come back quicker than, it's not going to be a long-term deal because of the actual virus and everything else, because we were going so good when we stopped versus back in the 80s. So, I kind of anticipate.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I mean, it's not going to come back as fast as it was down. Because, I mean, it's down. I think, as you know, we've never seen anything like this. It couldn't happen without shutting things down. But to come back, there's nothing out there. I mean, again, nothing was fundamentally broken. You know, this wasn't a mortgage crisis. This wasn't a dot-com crisis. This wasn't a loan crisis. The things that caused our major downturn in the last 30, 40 years, this wasn't any of those. You know, this is just a health crisis, and it's an unprecedented one. And unfortunately, unfortunately, we don't have the data to know even how good a job we're doing with solving the debt. But we know that in a reasonable period of time, there will be a vaccine. You know, we don't know exactly what that time is. There will be some better treatment. There will be some better information out there. And as the world restarts and people regain confidence, then, you know, we start using energy because we haven't changed anything. You know, there will be some subtle changes in the economy that will impact the demand for energy. Some positive, some negative. But demand should start coming back very quickly because all of the things that are driving demand are still out there. There's just pause right now.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Ray, I look forward to the May 14th meeting and give a chance to delve into it a little bit and have some more specific questions, but I can say on myself, I feel a whole lot better just glancing at what I've seen so far, and I haven't even got into it. So,
the critical thing again, I think is that messaging is very important. This is not doing that.
Yes.
But beyond that, there's some stuff in there. I mean, there's different things in the community we need to do very quickly, and that's what we're focusing on. The things we need to help right now. We try to use some guidance. Again, everything back, obviously. But we can't stop a 25% drop in demand, but there are some things we can do to help. So take care of the short-term situation and set us up to be ready to come back.
Okay. Tim, I have a question for Dr. Perryman. This is Gene. Good morning. How are you doing, Dr. Perryman?
I'm great. How are you?
I was monitoring the Railroad Commission hearing the other day.
Right.
And the question about the Railroad Commission regulating production in Texas, which it has never done, it will certainly help the bigger haul companies, but it will put a clamp on a lot of the smaller companies, which we in Odessa know is our lifeblood, the smaller haul folks. Where should we be on that issue as an economic development corporation? I hate to say whose side should we be on, but we're trying to, grow the industry out here. We know the lifeblood is those people who started here as small businesses.
Well, Gene, I try to stay out of politics myself, unlike you sometimes. Gene and I go way back. We were greater together, okay? So anyway, I will tell you my position. I will also tell you the industry is pretty much 50-50, and so you're gonna upset somebody whichever side of the fence you jump on. I am opposed to proration, and I will tell you why. I mean, we did it for years and years before the first energy crisis and that sort of thing. But we haven't done it since. I'm opposed to it for a couple of reasons. First of all, anytime you interfere with the market, you don't have to. Markets do a pretty good job of allocating resources. Unless it's a compelling reason they can't. There's not one here. If today's price isn't an incentive to shut down some production, I don't know what is. I don't know what they can do that's going to have more incentives than the market is telling people to do right now. From a technical perspective, and obviously we all know I'm not a geologist, but from a technical perspective, as I understand it, the old conventional wells where you kind of drill a hole straight down and up straight up, I mean, it was fairly easy to control production in those wells. Frac wells tend to have a lot of production up front and then fall off very rapidly and often have to be reworked and that sort of thing than conventional wells. And so the sheer logistics and mechanics of how you do it, I think, is very difficult. The other thing is, I mean, if you look at it, we might, if the Railroad Commission was prorated in Texas and it was effective, I'm not sure that's going to happen. But even if it did, we might be able to, through that kind of way with the technology we have, reduce global production by probably optimistically 500,000 barrels a day. The gap the gap's about 13 million right now. Assuming everybody does what they're supposed to do on May 1, higher than that if they don't. So we're not going to move the needle very much. We're going to do here. Another reason, which I think is frankly my biggest reason, is again, this is not the 8, 9, 10 months from now, and possibly sooner. We're going to be wanting to gear up production again. And if you got duration sitting there on top of you, it's hard to unring that down. And so I think it's to the disadvantage of the industry to do it. We're basically telling people you have to do something, but the market's already telling you better than. And so I don't see that. Let me add one quick caveat there. That doesn't mean when there's OPEC meetings in the future, and Mexico comes in, Russia comes in, and everybody else comes in, and we're now one of the largest oil producers in the world. In many months, we are the largest oil producer in the world. We may need to sit down with them and talk at those times. We may need to be at the table. There's that old saying, I think, the truth is you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we know in 2015, and we know recently with Russia trying to, they've gone after the U.S. fracking industry. And in fact, bad. I mean, we went up 2.5 million barrels a day in production the last 5 years, and they stayed the same. They don't like that. So I think there's a advantage for us being involved in those conversations and in discussions of how we balance the world market. But I'm personally opposed to the exploration. I can tell you that's probably a 50-50 split or close to it in the industry. There's a lot of different opinions on this. Personally, I'm opposed to it. And from the long-term perspective of our community, I don't see how regulating production of our most valuable commodities is going to be beneficial to us.
Okay. Any other comments? Dr. Perriman, we appreciate you getting on with us and look forward to you seeing you on the 14th.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it, Dr. All your hard work.
Well, if there's not any other business to have, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second. I guess I'll second it. And all in favor, say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thanks everyone for coming on. I know it's a Friday morning, but I'm glad everyone made it. Let's look forward to the 14th meeting. Mr. Shelton, we're glad to have you on board, and we'll see everybody, and we'll be talking, I'm sure, between now and then. We'll see you the 14th. Thanks.
Okay. God bless you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Wes.
Thanks.
Okay.